So this is very strange for me, no doubt. It's got to be strange for you too. You know, we're supposed to be getting ready for our annual convention in person with close to 300 people next week.
Right.
Instead, I'm sitting here at the Department of Transportation with our good friend Mo Jamshidi, who is the Deputy of Operations, but also the Interim Director.
That's true.
For the past 2 months. So let's go there first. What's it been like wearing the two hats? I'm assuming you're wearing two hats, right?
I am. I'm doing the best I can, and I think I have a great team that they're just helping out. It really is for me, hasn't been that much different, but legislation being in session and I have to deal with all of that has been different than past years at this time. But again, without the team, I couldn't have done what we're doing, but we're moving along just fine.
Good. I mean, I've been in here before, and I mean, there's not even a desk. So I'm assuming you are desking out of your normal office, just status quo until...
Status quo, no, I'm in my office. I'm still Mo, and I deal with construction, maintenance, and all that other stuff. But for just a short period of time, we're making sure that department keeps moving forward.
Good. Well, I have to ask, any news on the new director front?
You know what? I'm just as anxious as you are. I've heard rumors, and rumors are always never right. I think the governor is doing a thorough job to really get the right person. This is a big job, and we want to make sure it's the right amount of time is spent to look for the right person to fit. And the governor so far has done a great job of, in the past, you know, as you know. I have full confidence we're going to get somebody who's going to hit the ground running, and we'll be here to support whoever that is. Soon, maybe next couple of weeks, I don't know. I really don't have any more information than you do. We
don't have any information either. We've tried, and we just aren't involved this time, and that's fine. We work so good with all of you, you know. Whoever it is, we will hopefully continue our partnership and
you bet.
Keep going forward. And so, okay, so COVID. I don't want to dig too deep into COVID because I'm basically tired of talking about it. However, one of the things I feel like is through COVID, so we're looking, we're getting close to a year. I mean, close, but not quite there. I'm hoping it opens up soon. One of the things I think we've done well, and you guys too, is we adapted. We do adapt well to change, obviously. As projects change, we adapt. We, change day to day. So, we're the lucky industry to continue to work, and we had a huge year. All of my members, I think, had big years, very busy. And after the 2019 flood, it got dumped on us again. So tell me what you think is going to come out of COVID that is a positive. Instead of being negative, and we keep saying, oh, I can't wait to put it behind us. But there's got to be some things that come out of it that...
Well, absolutely. I tell you that this COVID has opened the door to a lot of opportunities. I honestly think there are things that we do today that just a year ago I would have said it's not even possible. Most of it has been in the way of communication, how better we can communicate, and how many more people we can bring in the meeting room that before wasn't possible. Moving forward, you know me, I like to get together. We need to be in person. The pre-planned meetings, the conferences, they all have to be there so we can build relationship, talk about not only our business, but everything else, so we can have that understanding of where we all come from. You can't do that on a Zoom meeting and what have you. But I think with the new technology and the way we have now gotten so good at it, is that I think the door is open to more communication. One of the biggest problems we always have is communication. Well, I didn't know about this project. I didn't know about this specification. I didn't know how you solve a problem. I really think the opportunity is now there where people all the way in the field and the front office can quickly call a Zoom meeting on a district level or a project site and set the plans up and share the plans on the computer and talk about solutions to the problem real time, where before I would have said, my God, I got to talk 6 people into coming into Kearney is the closest to everyone. So I really think there's opportunities to take advantage of moving forward.
Yeah, I do too. I really think on our side, communication, obviously, it's key. We haven't always done the greatest from top to bottom, I think. You know, I look at AGC and NDOT at the top level, we work great. Our communication levels, 8 out of 10, maybe even a 9. I have an open channel almost with all of you guys. You know, if I need Jim, I call him. We have cell phones. I have your cell phone. You have my cell phone. I had Kyle's. So it's quick. We don't have to stew over something. We can just make the phone call.
Exactly.
I feel at the project level is probably where we need to work, and I think this will help us immensely, being able to get everybody involved early in the project.
No doubt.
You know, I hear so many times from my members at the end of the job where they're trying to work through problems, and I say, did you go to the pre-con? Did you go to the weekly meetings? How did you communicate? Well, I don't have time, and I can't really travel 3 hours out and 3 hours back for a half-hour meeting.
Right.
So I'm really hoping that everybody, project managers, district personnel, everybody will allow, you know, the Zoom or the WebEx or whatever it is to allow everybody to participate.
I think that it's not about whether to allow. I think through our AGC committees, we gotta work together to see what's more efficient. So if we have a pre-con and make it available for everyone, I think all of these people will join in more. But we have to set it up. It takes some time, and we have to invest in that. So I think we need to work on it.
Yeah, and we're learning. You know, next week for the convention, we're doing it this time. You guys helped us with it in December, but we need to do those things too.
Right.
So we're doing it, and it's something. We'll see how it goes. But my fingers are crossed, and I'm really hoping going forward we're really going to be pros at this Zoom and WebEx. You know, as we move through this year. So we're going to move up to a 9 out of 10 in communication at the project level. So, all right, let's move to funding.
Yeah.
How do we look for the rest of this program year and moving into next year's program?
Good. I think our 2021 program is on the web, and really there shouldn't be any surprises. That's basically what we communicated with you all back in fall. So that's almost behind us. We are projecting something like a 625-ish million for the 22 program. That will eat, take care of itself. I think by spring we should have a more detail about it, but it should be a fairly, I would call it a normal plus, maybe a program. So we have some challenges in some specific projects that we're working through, some of the expressways and others, but I think we're making really good progress. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good year.
What's the chance we're going to see a 5-year program published again?
Good chance. I think we will. I mean, remember, COVID just upended everything, and we want everybody to have as much information as they need to make to plan. That's just not the contractors, it's the suppliers and everyone else. So we will provide that information as early, as often as we can, and I fully expect our programming go back to the same level of 1 and 5 year and putting that out.
That would be awesome.
You bet.
Then they can get off my back. No, I'm sure once we get done with these pandemic emergency years,
exactly.
Hopefully we can get back to it. Yep. All right. So we had 2 task force last year.
Yeah.
And AGC and DOT, we worked together, to try to find solutions that really affect the industry. So one of the best ways on a short-term basis, you appoint, Jim and I get together and we put a task force together, find the goals and the issue and define them and let them go to work. So this year I think we had 2 really good ones. They met through Zoom
Yes.
and WebEx or whatever. So they were everybody was able to participate, which was really good. I attended most of them. So the contractor time allowance team.
Yeah.
So we have talked about working days and I think it was more of an education process for both sides, really.
Right.
And to get how you guys come about your production rates.
Right.
And then it was a little too, well, what are they really,
Right.
And I think the contractors that were on the team really kept an open mind about it, understanding that not every contractor does it the same way.
Right.
So where do you see that? How is it going to be utilized? The recommendations.
I think, a lot of times when you put a task force together, you really accomplish two things. In my view, one is the people that are on the task force, usually if you pick the right people, first of all, they get to understand each other's point of view and where they come from. And through the process, they learn about the things that they didn't know, that they perhaps complained in the past. And our people would say, I don't know why the contractor is complaining because they didn't get enough working times. On your case, you say, I don't know why these guys don't understand. Why is it so little time or what have you? I think one of the good things that came from this, one of the two things is that I heard from both sides that, gee, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. I can see now why the department does what they do. And I saw our side saying, gee, I really know why they're scratching their heads on this. So I think the one thing is that education. So I think they learn from each other. And the other thing is optimizing the process, right? So I really have a good feeling that what they learned, the recommendations that they implemented or implementing and continue to implement, I think it's going to make it more accurate, it's going to make it more predictable, repeatable on these projects. Is it going to be perfect? Of course not. There's still going to be a project that we're going to say, what in the world happened there? And those things can happen. But I think, can we get closer to what it needs to be? I really think we can, and the implementation of the recommendations is going on right now.
That's good.
I think the other one, the night work task force, although I've seen preliminary report of their work, it didn't come up with a whole lot of earth-shattering type of things, oh my God type of thing. But I think they have 2-3 recommendations, things like make more room for workers and things like that, that I think Jim Nod and Drew Wilson are working to actually this week, I think, to finalize their report and then see what we can do to implement some of those.
Okay, so do you think there's a chance of allowing some daytime work,
Well, honestly,
for the rumble strips,
east of Kearney, we're working on it. I mean, we'll see what we can do. I think there are things that can be done, and I talked to Jim. Jim is talking to the districts to identify some of the things that can be done during the day. Of course, during the day you have to open up the traffic. You're exposed to a lot of elements, and then then you have to have a night crew and a day crew on the same job. It presents some challenges for us as inspectors that are out there, but I think some things can be done, and that's what we're investigating.
Okay. Well, we hope, because
Sure.
When you have one bidder on some of these jobs, it really limits, and it also limits the subcontractors that want to even look at that stuff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, hopefully we can work together and make some changes down the road.
You bet.
All right, so now we're going to move into a topic that has been on the list of topics since I've been involved in AGC. So we go back to the late 90s, and it's utility issues, right?
See. Yeah.
Conflicts, coordination, all the above. So it's just been brought up all the time,
Sure.
and every year it seems like there's more and more issues that I'm hearing about from projects, large and small.
Yeah.
Not just the Build Nebraska Act jobs, but some jobs where you just have a widening of a pipe or box culvert or something, and you run into something, shut it down, people can't work for a month or two, whatever. So we've talked with you guys
Yes.
for a very long time over this. So we introduced LB 339,
Yes.
which is to require utility relocation plan in the bid documents.
Right.
So we realized that, there's a lot of opposition to this bill. We're pretty much standing here by ourselves with NUCA, and the consultants are kind of in the middle. They would love the ability to call locates for design. You guys would too. But from your perspective,
Yes.
if this isn't the way that we solve the issue, how do we do it? Is it solvable? Can we take the risk a little bit off our shoulders?
You had the word risk, right? So we have to minimize the risk. Can we all eliminate it all? I submit to you that you can. But it's going to take all of us to minimize the risk. It's just not the Department of Transportation. I've always thought, and I've been in the business long enough, and I've seen all the headaches on some projects. I've always thought dealing with the utilities and the construction, it's almost like walking through a forest, right? You could spend years identifying a path, identifying every tree, every hole in the ground and everything, and then have a plan so you can go through the forest to where you want to go. Or you can basically get the right tools in your hands and just start walking and say, whatever comes my way, I deal with it. I really think ideally we will have to do a balancing act, a compromise of the two. You got to do enough planning that allows you to do a good planning job that's cost effective and your schedule allows. And then also be prepared for the things that could come up, so we have good lines of communication that when we run into it, we can resolve it quickly and move on. So what are we doing about it? I think communication is the key. We're working with our own folks, first of all, educating our own people what it takes to get a good job done. And we are working with the utility companies. We're getting involved early and often. And so those are the things that I think make a big difference in the long run. We're identifying some major projects, the ones that we think that a couple of hiccups can really impact the phasing or the delivery of the project or the cost or what have you. So we're going to do more upfront work, hire consultants, do more survey and what have you. And I think I'm kind of thinking about creating maybe a standing task force of the people who really want to solve the problem. And I see it's a three-legged stool. It's the owners, which is DOT, cities, counties, what have you, utility companies and contractors. And we all have interest in the project, and sometimes they are competing interests, right? So we got to understand each other. We got to understand each other's limitations. I would love to be able to tell a utility company, go identify every utility, tell me where they are, how deep they are, give me a plan so I can put it in there. Legally, I can't do that. And if they had to do that kind of thing, their rates would go high. So we got to have this balance, and we have to work with each other through the years to make it better. It's not going to be perfect, but I really think we have a long ways to go to get it much better, and I think we have a good path. Introducing a legislative solution may be in the works in the future if we find some barriers that we can remove. I don't think right now is the answer.
Next week we're going to have a member meeting, and we've got our lobbyist, Bill Miller, that's going to speak to everybody, and maybe we'll have an update by then. I don't know when the hearing is. To me, it's going to be more of an educational process,
Exactly.
We have talked to the senators through the years, trying to explain to them, the process that contractors go through as they get their bid documents, and they study everything, and they put their bid together, and then they go out there, and who knows what they're going to run into, And everybody knows who the ones we're dealing with. You know, some are very good at responding. Exactly. Some aren't. Everybody has budgets. We get all that, but it's
a complicated issue. Yep.
That it gets thrown on our shoulders when we have no legal whatevers. Yep. You know, and we don't deal with. It's not design build. You know.
Right.
So anyway, that's one of those things. We're there to work with you.
Oh, absolutely,
no doubt.
Absolutely. So and we're going to need you.
Hopefully,
to work
before
with us.
I retire, we fix this.
We'll get this done.
All right. So that's kind of the biggest thing I had. So communication, we've gone through communication pretty good. Mm-hmm. What else do you have for me? Any questions you have for AGC?
I think we always talk about partnering and how well do we work together. And I think in the last couple of years, you and I have been working together to make sure that your members know who to go to at the department when they got a question, or where do they go when they get a no for an answer and they want a second opinion, third opinion. And we came up with the idea that I think we've implemented it, or at the pre-con meetings or before that, everybody gets a list of hierarchy in the project on our side, on the contractor's side. I just want to know if that's working. Is that doing what it's intended to do, and how, or do you know anything?
Well, I think this year, you know, last year with COVID and people running all over the place, whatever. And I think we introduced it in June.
Right.
And I heard through the year that they were using it, some not. This year, I think we're going to do some proactive work and get it out there. I think you guys are going to do the same thing, and just remind everybody what the purpose is. You know, let's not have conflicts if we can help it. This kind of through that whole process of going to the pre-cons, everybody needs to know how that works and the channels. And one of the things that I preach all the time is that the prime contractor signed the contract with you guys.
Yes.
And they hired the subs. They contracted with the subcontractors. They hired the suppliers to bring the material. You know, they hired the truck drivers. They're doing all that stuff. And it's a huge responsibility as the prime contractor to get a contract in one of your jobs. And any job for that matter. You got to know what the documents say. You need to manage your people. You need to manage communications. You have to be there. You have to be that middle person, and everybody else is around you. And you can't throw that on your subcontractors to manage. And I think we will continue to work on that with the joint committee structure as we have our meetings. And if we will get there, you know. It's just some contractors really aren't primes, but that's how we bid the work here. And so we'll work through it. And I think the ability to have virtual meetings, have guidance documents, you know. And we're working through guidance document on virtual or value engineering proposals and all kinds of things like that have been coming up. So so I think just our level continue, and I keep the whip on you guys.
That's fine.
We finished these projects that we're working on, and I think we're doing a good job.
I think the two organizations, we're working well together. We're pushing each other, which is good. You know, testing the boundaries, which is good. It just and as long as we're just doing it in a team environment, that we're all in this together. And I think in the years that I've been involved, I've never felt any other way. I know we've had arguments, we've had discussions, we've had things, but it's always been for the better. So, and I think that the relationships are good, the camaraderie is good, and and as long as you all know, if you put something out there that you don't like, it's not on purpose. And we hope to not ever do that without at least you know and understand it before we do it. And I think through the committees, that's really been minimized. Back in the day when I used to be in construction or bridge or what have you, the surprises were everywhere. Well, gee, I didn't know this spec was in there. I think we basically don't have that anymore. So I think it's all good.
Yeah, I do too. I think, so the rest of the year, you know, construction's just around the corner. We're working workforce. You guys are working workforce. We got to recruit. We got to get people to build this $600 million plus program year after year.
Yes.
which we're doing that. I hope the state continues to work on it too. But so for us, through the rest of the year, of course, we're not having our big convention and get together and have a good time. Who knows what the summer brings, but I think, everybody will continue to work and do their deal.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking to have something in the fall. Convention, second half. I don't know what we're going to call it. But we're going to do something in the fall. We're going to do some more networking. We'll do our joint committees. We will celebrate
Awesome.
the normal,
Good.
I hope. And then we can get back to a normal
I always call
work
it, it's going to be normal plus.
It
Because we're going to do what we did before. We have learned a lot. We're going to add that to it.
Yep, we will.
Okay.
And we'll have a new director, and
Yep.
you're still going to be here, and we'll go from there. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will head off to the joint committees from here on out and have a good day of meetings and a good year. Thanks.